My first and last experience staying in a capsule hotel in Tokyo. By Manon Lyset. I just got back from going on my dream vacation to Japan. For the most part, it was awesome and everything went off without a hitch. The language barrier wasn't too bad. It was fairly easy getting around. I got to see most of the stuff on my itinerary. The food was delicious. There was only one sore spot that really stands out. And that's the night I stayed at the Capsule Hotel. I was supposed to stay there for 3 nights, but after the first, shit. I ended up using my emergency funds to pay for a hotel for the next 2 nights. I think you'll understand why after I tell you this. I want to start off by stressing just how damn exhausted I was. This was at the tail end of a 2-week trip, where I hadn't taken a single day off, so to speak. We're talking 8 to 10 hours of walking every day, exploring cities, going to shrines, shopping, and all that other good stuff. I'd started the day bright and early in Osaka, soaking up every bit of the city I could, knowing it might be the last time I ever get to see it. I took an evening train to Tokyo, which took about 3.5 hours. From there, I headed to Akihabara and explored, dragging my luggage behind me. I could have left it in a locker at the train station, but that meant doubling back and grabbing it, and I didn't want to subject my feet to that. I decided on a chill evening. I ended up being so enthralled that I didn't get to the Capsule Hotel until a bit past midnight. So, yeah, I felt like I could have slept through a hurricane. I checked in, got a neat little bracelet with my capsule number, as well as a key to a small locker for my stuff. I somehow managed to wedge my oversized luggage in there. I took a shower, and then headed to my capsule for sweet, sweet sleep. If you've never heard of capsule hotels, just imagine a morgue, except instead of a wall of tiny human freezers, it's full of neat, slightly larger sleeping areas, tall enough to sit up in and use a laptop, and long enough to sleep in, but not much else. As I crawled into Capsule 616, I noticed a little light indicator come on outside the capsule to indicate it was occupied. Sweet. I pulled down the door, played with every knob on the wall just because I could, and once I figured out how to turn off the lights, my head hit the pillow and I was off to dreamland. For about 10 minutes. It wasn't long before I started hearing a voice through the walls. I guess they were thinner than they looked, and that my sleep hadn't plunged into a deep enough territory for me to stay unconscious, despite the mental and physical exhaustion. I tried to fall back to sleep, but the voice kept me up. It was constant, and I mean, seriously, non-stop. I don't think she ever took time to breathe. Imagine that one Eminem song. You know the one, right? It was like that. Except it went on for easily half an hour. Because the sound was muffled and because every syllable melded into the next, I couldn't make out the language she was speaking. I don't think it was Japanese. I don't know, I'm not a linguistic expert. Well, there weren't a lot of A sounds you hear so often in Japanese. She was hitting those R's pretty hard, so if I had to guess, it might have been German? Whatever language it was freaking me out. That's when I remembered the buttons on the wall. I pawed around until I turned the lights on, and then found the knob for white noise. Bless you, Japan, for your practical technology. My little capsule soon filled with the sound of rain and thunder, easily overpowering the voice from my neighbor's capsule. You could still hear her, sure, but she was a whisper in a typhoon. I dimmed the lights, closed my eyes. All was right with the world. For, you guessed it, about 10 minutes. Intermixed with the synthetic storm was the wailing of a tornado siren. It took me a long time to realize it wasn't meant to be there, and that was coming from my neighbor. At this point, it was about 2 in the morning. I was tired, I was cranky. I just wanted a few hours of sleep before another fun-filled day of adventure. I was internally cursing at whatever inconsiderate fucking tourist starts screaming in their goddamn capsule in the middle of the goddamn night, knowing full well everybody could hear them. In my frustration, I made one big mistake. I slammed my fist into the wall and screamed, "Shut the fuck up!" This was her invitation to start slamming back, and boy did she take it and run with it. Screaming, she hit the wall so hard, I swear to God it felt like the entire capsule was shaking. It was like she was full-on body slamming it with her might, all while screaming so loud I could barely hear the storm anymore. I put my hand on the wall and felt it buckle as she thrashed against it. I backed away into the opposite wall, but I could still feel every slam as though it was coming from the capsule to my left instead of my right. I'd had enough. I was going to see if the concierge was still awake and see what they could do about putting me on another floor or kicking this jerk out. I opened my capsule door and jumped onto the solid ground. The little occupied light at the foot of my capsule turned off after a few seconds. The noise stopped, the banging ceased, and my breath caught in my throat. I looked at the light indicator under my neighbor's capsule. It was turned off. I could feel a cold sweat pouring out of me. Just a broken light, right? That's what I hoped. But I guess I've read one too many horror stories because something compelled me to grab her door handle and slowly lift it. Yeah. The neighbor's capsule was empty. I spent the night on the bench in the locker room. I know I should have probably left entirely, but I was spent. The next morning, stiff and barely rested, I went down to the lobby and tried to explain what had happened in my pitiful, broken-ass Japanese. The concierge looked confused, and even after using a translation service, I didn't get anywhere, until she saw my bracelet with the room number. There was the slightest micro-expression of horror on her face. She pulled my arm towards her. She gently took the bracelet off and flipped it around. I was supposed to be in Capsule 919, not 616. That look on her face, though. I can still picture it in my mind's eye. I have a feeling it wasn't just a look of, oh dear, you're in the wrong capsule. I think she knew damn well what was going on. So, yeah. I went to a hotel the next night.